Okay, outreach best practices. In this lesson, I'm going to walk you through what to be mindful of when actually reaching out to site owners, the delivery, your messaging, and everything else that's going to ensure that you get the best possible results. Let's start by touching on emails and the importance of using dedicated emails. Firstly, use dedicated emails. Like I said, for us, we use Gmail accounts. And these are to be used as dedicated emails specifically for outreach purposes. Now, when it comes to creating user profiles or personas, we simply create fictitious profiles. So name, emails, photos, and so on. I'll walk you through an example of how that works in just a minute. But the beauty of this is that it allows you to create accounts that can be used in a way where you can use them interchangeably without constraints. This means that the emails can be sent regardless of the niche, the campaign, and so on. I'm going to be touching on a number of different areas here, but the main point of doing this is that you retain control and you can use these emails ongoing, even after campaigns finish. Just a quick side note on using Gmail accounts. Firstly, spam. Gmail accounts are often associated with spam and may have lower success rates. So be mindful of this. What do I mean by that? Well, if you speak to most site owners, if you're sending from a Gmail account, quite often site owners will just send those straight to the trash because Gmail accounts, they're free and like I said, they're often associated with spam. You're much better off still using Gmail accounts, but using the send mail as option, which is my next point here. Gmail, thankfully, provides the option of creating email aliases. In other words, sending mail as and masking the Gmail address. Now, to make this happen, and I'll show you how this all works in just a moment, you will need client assistance. So clients will need to assist by creating a dedicated email for this purpose. Having said that, I would not recommend using active client accounts. This is really important. Professionalism. Of course, if you're wanting to run a high-end agency and charge premium rates, put in the effort of creating email accounts that include profile photos, signatures, and contact information. Emails that include this type of information are far more likely to receive positive engagement. Okay, business owners are receiving random emails from generic Gmail accounts and there's no signature, there's no photo, there's no contact information, then that's going to significantly reduce the success rates of your outreach efforts. Like I said, don't use agency emails. You don't want to send outreach requests using agency emails as it will impact responsiveness. Plus, like I mentioned just a minute ago, you want ownership of the assets so that you can use them continuously between campaigns. And of course, you've got to deal with the potential of having email accounts blacklisted. Using generic emails, Gmail, etc., can be recycled or recreated easily should any issues arise with black flagging. Never mention SEO. I touched on this just a moment ago, but I'll mention it again. Don't ever mention SEO in your outreach emails. This will literally kill any opportunities. The minute business owners or site owners see any mention of SEO, again, the emails will be deleted and it will significantly lower your success rates. Likewise, no agency speak. You also want to avoid using any kind of agency speak too, as this can have a negative impact on acceptance rates. What we always do is speak on behalf of. So we're sending emails on behalf of Robert or on behalf of Kate from XYZ Plumbing or ABC Electrical. You want to do that as opposed to sending emails from an agency or wanting links for SEO purposes. Avoid being self-promotional. This is fairly self-explanatory. You don't want to fill outreach emails with self-speak, so avoid sending outreach emails that are focused on self-speak or self-interest. And likewise, don't be promotional. You don't want to send pitchy emails full of hype and sensationalism. Personalization matters. For obvious reasons. You want to take the time where possible to address site business owners by their actual name when sending outreach emails. This will help increase acceptance rates. Of course, this is all about making it count. So take the time, spend just a few minutes looking over the site to identify areas of interest that you might be able to reference in the emails, this can make a considerable difference. So you may want to take a look at the business owner or the site owner's details on LinkedIn, maybe take a quick look at their social media properties as well. And you can mention these things. You only have to mention them briefly, but we saw that you received an award or you've just expanded overseas. Congratulations. You know, that comes across far more genuine than just a flat, generic, hey, we're looking for a guest post opportunity. Build relationships. Avoid taking a short-term approach where you're only thinking about the guest post and getting links as a one-time opportunity. Okay, we want ongoing opportunities, not just one. So some site owners, and this came as a bit of a surprise to me, some site owners may have several sites or know others that they can actually refer us to. Okay, so you want to go into this thinking about more so from a relationship building standpoint rather than just get in, get a link, and then get out. This is why building relationships is so important. You should be thinking about building relationships so we have greater opportunities. Okay, and this becomes especially important as we niche down and we build a library of sites. We want to be able to come back to the same site owners who already know us. This can help accelerate acceptance rates. The next point here that I think is worth mentioning is that you take the time to pitch ideas, not just articles. So try and have a point of difference. So if possible, pitch ideas, not just more of the same. As suggested, change the content offering or reverse engineer existing content they have already published on their site and look for different angles. And in addition to that, provide examples where possible. So you want to take the time to show previously published content elsewhere. This helps with credibility and trust, and it will increase acceptance rates. My next point here, and this is tremendously important, guys, can't stress this enough. You want to make it easy for site owners to be able to say yes. Okay, so my first point here is revisions. You want to avoid sending content that requires constant revisions. Get it right. Make it count right away and avoid wasting time. Okay, this site owners are busy. You have to remember that some of them may be getting several requests a day. They're obviously running a business. You want to avoid wasting their time. Okay, this means you take the time to review the submission guidelines. Make sure that the content meets all of those guidelines, including length, the content type, bio, links, and everything. And my last point here, and this is essentially what we do, right? We give them everything. We want to avoid situations where site owners are caught between publishing and potentially requesting additional information. We didn't get the URLs for that, or we didn't get the image, or can you provide a graph or data that backs up this point? You want to try and avoid all of that. Again, you want to get to yes, and you want to get there quickly. Crafting pitches. Okay, let's take a quick look at what you need to be mindful of in terms of actually submitting the request and how best to word your emails. Firstly, you want to keep the emails very short, so avoid sending long, drawn-out emails. Instead, keep them short, direct, and to the point. And guys, always check spelling and grammar before sending. Broken English and bad grammar will result in an immediate no. Now here's a very simple message that we often send out. As you can see, there's really nothing new here. I will be providing a number of outreach email templates for you to use, but this one simply reads, "Good morning, Lynn. I'm contacting you on behalf of Ryan Evans from Acme Roofing. We're interested in submitting content or guest post, etc. for consideration to your website. Over the past 12 months, I've published numerous articles for sites in our industry. Here's some of the content I've written on other roofing sites for your reference." This is where, of course, you would insert links to other articles and content published elsewhere. "I look forward to hearing from you. Kind regards, Phil Edwards." As you can see, nothing groundbreaking there, but it is short and it's to the point. All right, let's talk quickly about following up. Now, firstly, time is critical. So if there are any delays or there's no response, you want to follow up daily. For this, I would use MailSuite within Gmail to gauge email status. And this will allow you to see if the email has been opened or read, which is quite useful in terms of the follow-up process. And I'll be showing you how this works in just a moment. Remember, time is of the essence. Remember, we've got 3 to 4 weeks to send these submissions out and get them published. You should, however, expect delays. Delays are usually inevitable, so be sure to allow for them. I would recommend sending a request towards the beginning of each billing cycle. Okay, so remember, we've got 3.5 weeks. You don't want to be sending outreach emails at the beginning of the 3rd week. You want to be doing it at the beginning of each billing cycle. That way you've got time for any potential back and forth and additional requests for more information and whatnot. You'll give yourself enough time to be able to submit the request, go through the consideration phase, then the publication phase and everything else. You have to remember that site owners are often busy, so consider scheduling ahead to prevent delays and improve efficiency. And lastly, diversify. So avoid waiting on just 1 or 2 sites and diversify your efforts to provide options. In other words, don't just contact 1 or 2 sites, because if there are any delays, then those delays are going to be significant. We typically reach out to a dozen sites, maybe 10 or so, and this way it gives us greater options in terms of response times. Some site owners take longer than others. The ones that get back to us the quickest are the ones that we usually move on. And my last point here, handling rejection. It's not uncommon for applications to be rejected. It's no big deal. I would, however, make a point of asking why. At least you want to get some feedback so that you can make improvements. But I wouldn't get too hung up on this. I would simply ask for some feedback and then move on. Okay, let's talk now quickly about email accounts and the way in which, at least we do it. We find doing it this way is the most effective because it just gives us ownership and control of the assets, and it also allows us to centralize our efforts. Now, as I said just a minute ago, there's a couple of quick points that I want to touch on here. Firstly, when I say don't use active accounts, by that I mean don't use existing accounts that the client's staff are using, because this becomes problematic because their inbox will start blowing up with confirmation links, verification emails, and all sorts of communication that's going on with site owners, especially as you're working your way through the guest post process. So if possible, get your clients to set up a dedicated email address that you can use within the agency on behalf of the client. The other thing that I'll mention real quick is that what I do like about this, and I'll demonstrate what this looks like in just a second, is that it provides a level of flexibility, because using Gmail accounts will give you the ability to use one account interchangeably, regardless of what's happening at the client's end, whether they're active, they've cancelled, what niche they're in, it doesn't really matter. And the other thing that I'll say is that if for whatever reason you can't get an email from the client, then just use your Gmail accounts. Okay, sometimes clients are using Office 365 or G Suite, and they'll have to pay for another seat, or it's too hard for them. They don't know how to do it. If you find yourself in that situation, just use Gmail. It's not ideal, because remember, we want our emails, when they're received at the other end by site owners, we want them to look genuine and authentic. Okay, if we say we're reaching out on behalf of a client, it's going to look far more professional if it's coming from the client's actual domain, as opposed to just from some random Gmail account. Okay, so there are a number of things that you need to be mindful of when you're working your way through this process. Okay, now having said all of that, I'll explain to you how we do this and why we do it this way. So as you can see on screen here, I've got Campaign A, Campaign B, and Campaign C. And underneath, I've got bob@a.com, Kate at b.com, and Susie at c.com, just as fictitious email addresses. Right now, obviously, Campaign A, you go to Bob, you say, hey Bob, we need, we need an email account set up so that we can use it. And Bob supplies you with bob@a.com, and likewise for Campaign B and C. Right, now, we can centralize our efforts, like I said, using one Gmail account, using what Gmail refers to as aliases. right? So we can essentially use these emails, right? We can use these emails and mask the fact that they're coming from a Gmail address, which is fantastic. That's what we want. In other words, we'll be sending from this Gmail account to site owners, but masking the Gmail account using, like I said, the client's email. This is brilliant because we can centralize our efforts here, and we can then go about performing outreach on behalf of campaign A, campaign B, and campaign C, right? Without having to, all from, like I said, a centralized location, without having to essentially log into bob@a.com, send some emails, log out, then log into kate@b.com, send some emails, log out. That's exhausting. It doesn't work. So this is why we're going to centralize our efforts using Gmail. Right now, as I said, gives you tremendous flexibility. And it allows you to work interchangeably regardless of the campaign, whether or not it's active, the niche, and everything else. So by that I mean, let's say that we're doing outreach for campaign A, we're doing outreach for campaign B, and we're also doing outreach for campaigns C. Now, campaign C, Susie over at c.com decides to cancel out. Okay, great. We retain ownership and the data and all of the information and the communications that we had. We retain that here, right, without loss. And then, maybe John at campaign D comes on board, right? And this would be John at d.com, right? That's fantastic. He sets us up with an email address, and we start using another alias from our Gmail account. So this is fantastic because it allows us, like I said, it allows us to centralize our efforts here so that we're not having to log in and out of accounts. It makes sending and receiving emails look far more professional because site owners are getting it from the client's actual domain. And overall, it just makes everything far more efficient. Because let me tell you, once you start getting up into 20, 30, 40, 50 clients, the amount of emails flying around will be tremendous, especially in terms of guest posting. So this is the way in which we do it. It's the way I feel is probably most efficient. And the other thing is, guys, just quickly, is that obviously you don't want to just use a single Gmail account, right? You might want to have several Gmail accounts using fictitious names and personas, right? And this is essentially what we've done. These are all Gmail accounts. And we use these as part of our ongoing efforts here, right? So number of things to be mindful of, but using the send mail alias and setting up aliases within Gmail is the best way, at least we've found, to do it. Now, having said all of that, I understand that, sometimes there'll be exceptions to the rules. Sometimes you'll have clients that are using Office 365 or G Suite or something else, or they want you to use a particular email. I'd be very, very cautious about getting too bogged down in all of this. Sometimes email can be one of those things where it's incredibly simplistic, and other times it can be quite challenging and difficult. But make sure that you don't go about changing your operations and processes because one client wants you to do something using one of their emails a certain way, because it'll cause problems. So if, like I said, if for any reason you can't get the client to set up an email like this, just use your own Gmail. You just have to send emails through Gmail. Right, now, having said all of that, let's now jump into Gmail. I'll show you, I'll walk you through the steps necessary in order to set up aliases within Gmail so that you can essentially emulate what we do here. Okay, so I'm now logged into one of our agency Gmail accounts. As you can see, this is just a fictitious account. We've named this particular persona Phil Edwards, and you can see the Gmail address is imphiledwards@gmail.com, right? And I think we're managing several accounts in here using this particular Gmail address. So what I'm going to do firstly is set up the alias. There's a number of steps involved. You'll be able to follow along so that you can do this within your own agency. And like I said, when it comes to creating fictitious profiles, just use a fake name generator. There's plenty of these online. You can grab a stock photo for the profile image and everything else. But you want to try and work towards making the emails look legitimate. Okay, so all right, let's start the process. We'll jump into setting up a persona. So the first thing we'll do is click on the gear icon, go down to see all settings. Let's go to accounts and import. Now, before I get into this, I will say that for my client here, the Upskills client, I haven't actually been able to get an email from these guys because they use Office 365, right? This is exactly what I mean. Sometimes you just won't be able to get an email for whatever reason. Sometimes you just won't be able to get an email. Now, in this case, I'd probably just go about sending using the Gmail account, which is fine. It's not ideal though. However, one of the kind members in the group has gone about sharing with us a email account here from a different domain, Ace, Termite and Pest, okay, which is fantastic. It's a little bit off topic. It doesn't matter. The process is going to be exactly the same. I'll walk you through it now so you'll know how to go about setting it up. Okay, but this is essentially the type of information that you'll need to get from clients in order to be able to complete the following steps, right? You'll need an email, you'll need a password, and you'll also need the incoming and outgoing server details as well as port numbers. Okay, so you can see here port 995 for POP3 and SMTP port 465. Right, you'll need that from the client. Now, like I said, some clients are okay at doing this and it won't be a problem. Other clients, they'll lose their minds trying to figure it out. What I would probably recommend is putting a short instructional video together, and that way you can send your clients over to it and say, hey, if you're not sure how to do this, follow this instructional video. It shows you exactly what I need and how to perform the following steps so you can get me an email account. All right, so having said all of that, let's now jump in. The first thing I want to do is set up the alias, right? So I've gone to accounts and import under settings and under send mail as, right? You can see here, I'm currently using Phil Edwards. I am philedwards@gmail.com. I'm going to click on to add another email address. Right now, it's going to prompt me here and ask me for some information, right? So name, email, passwords, and all of that other stuff that I've just had on screen, right? So let's follow the prompts. We'll fill this out and I'll take you through the steps. This is very, very easy. So firstly, email, right? Phil at acetermiteandpest.com.au, and like I said, I couldn't get an email address from Upskills, which is fine. The same steps will apply. Treat as an alias, you want to leave that checked. Click on next step. Right, so it's asking me for the SMTP account details, and this is for incoming mail, right? Sorry, outgoing mail. So the mail at acetermiteandpest.com.au, that's correct, right? So I'm looking down here, SMTP, right? So the port number is 465. We need to change that. The username is the same as the email, so we'll copy that in here. And the password is right here. Okay, let's go on. Let's go ahead now and add accounts, right? So that's now gone through. Now what it's doing here is it's prompting me. It's saying I need to confirm verification in order to add the email address, right? This is just part of the security processes. You can't just go about adding someone else's domain and start using their emails without actual permission. So it's, as you can see here, it says, congratulations, we've successfully located your other server and verified your credentials. Just one more step. An email with a confirmation link was sent to Phil at blah, blah, blah. You need to click on the link. Okay, great. So I'm actually logged in here already. This is the web-based email account that's been provided to me by one of the lovely members. And with any luck, the confirmation email should come through in just a second. Okay, great. So here it is. Gmail confirmation, send mail as Phil at Ace Termite and Pest. Brilliant. Now all we need to do is click on confirm. Please confirm sending as. Click here to confirm. Okay, brilliant. Confirm. Great. Okay, so that step is now done. Okay, so we're pretty much halfway through. Now we can send mail from, or send mail as you saw. I can now send mail using this Gmail account using the credentials phil at acetermiteandpest.com.au. Brilliant. Now, in order to receive email, we need to perform an additional step, right? Now, this is check email from other accounts. It's the process is very similar again. We're going to add an account, and I'm going to refer back to my logins here. And guys, don't muck around with this email. This will be deleted by the time these videos have been recorded. Okay, so enter the email address. Gmail flow is not available for this provider. Import emails from my other account. You can either import emails to your Gmail inbox or link accounts to Gmailify. Okay, I'm not quite sure. I haven't seen that before. All right, let's just follow the prompts. Okay, so username, Phil, and password. Let's put this in here. Now, these checkboxes below, in fact, just before we move on, the POP server, okay, so POP3, port is 995, we'll make sure to change that. Now, these other prompts here, you've got to make sure that you read these. You definitely don't want to check the bottom one, okay? Archive incoming messages, skip the inbox, right? I've made this mistake before where I've just rushed through and checked all of the boxes, and I've just about lost my mind because incoming emails weren't landing in the inbox, right? They were going to, spam or elsewhere or into the archive settings. So I usually check the following three, right? Leave a copy on the server just for the client's reference if they want to take a look at that either during the campaign or after. Always use an SSL. Label incoming messages as, right? Okay, so add account, and with that we should be good. Okay, brilliant. So as you can see, we now can both send emails or use the alias send mail as using Phil Ace, Termite and Pest, and also check emails from other accounts. Brilliant. So that's working as well. We can see here last checked 0 minutes ago, 2 emails fetched. Perfect. Okay, so that's that step completed. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a signature, because remember, we want our emails to look authentic and as genuine as possible when they're received by site owners. If site owners are getting emails from Gmail accounts and there's no contact information or it looks questionable, that's going to have a direct impact, a negative impact at that, on our read rates, our open rates, and everything else. People are less likely to respond to emails that are coming in where there's no contact information. All right, so let's go up to General, and we'll scroll down the page, and we'll make our way down to Signatures. Now, this is where you go about setting up a signature for your aliases. Right, now this is actually quite straightforward. All we're going to do here is click on Create New. I'm going to give this one the name Phil Edwards, Ace Termites, just to keep it easy. It's always worth adding a label here or some sort of naming convention so you can see at a quick glance which domain or which client this is actually for. I'm going to click on Create. Now, of course, we need to create a signature. To save a bit of time here, I've actually created a signature in the web-based email account that I've been provided by the client. Now, as you can see, it's nothing fancy. All I've done here, and this is what we normally do, we'll grab the logo from the client's website. We've added in Phil Edwards as his name. For the title or the position role or whatever you want to call it, we just usually use assistant. And then we include the email address, the web address, and then a short slogan. And you can usually get this directly from the client's site. So we're going to grab that. We're going to copy that out. Make our way back to Gmail. Of course, if you haven't already prepared a signature, you can prepare one directly here within Gmail. Okay, great. So that's done. Now we want to make sure that we assign the signature to the correct alias. Right, so you can see here, signature defaults. You have to be really careful, guys, when you setting up aliases that it can be really easy to send using the alias and then accidentally respond using the Gmail account. So you need to make sure that you set everything as default. That applies or that's attributed to the correct email account or the alias that you set up. Right, so we want to set the signature defaults to Ace, Termite, and Pest. And for new emails, same thing, and for replies. Okay, great. So insert signature before the quoted text in replies. Okay, so I'm not going to do that. You can do that if you like, but that should be it. We should be good to go. Right, now let's save the changes. Okay, great. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to test. Okay, always make sure, guys, that when you're setting up aliases like this, that you take the time to test. Send a test email, reply. Make sure that you've got clear communications. The email is actually working as intended without any problems, because you don't want to go about sending 100 outreach emails only to find that either they're not being sent or you've tried replying and they're not being received. So to keep it simple, I'm just going to click on Compose. Now you can see here, and this is where you can manage several accounts, all from the one Gmail account. All you need to do is select the alias. Okay, so if I had several different clients accounts in here, I would just select Phil at Ace Termite and Pest. Right, great. Now that's where you need to be. You need to be added, apply a little bit of caution here, guys, because you don't want to rush through this when you're sending emails and be sending from the wrong email account. It's very easy to do. So you need to instruct your team to slow down a little bit and make sure they've got that right. Now I'm just going to send myself an email here, and monthly. Let's call it monthly report. And again, to save a bit of time, I think I've got a phony. I've just got a fake email message here that I'll put together in ChatGPT. So I'll paste that in. Right. Okay, great. So there's my message. Let's go about sending it. And with any luck, we should see it at my end in my own email account. And then I'll go about replying to make sure that the email is actually sending and receiving without any errors. Okay, great. So here it is. I can see it's come from Phil Edwards. There's my email, monthly report. Now, okay, this looks great. I can see my signature down the bottom, all of the contact information. I can also see Phil Edwards. It's come from the correct email account. Everything looks fantastic. So just to confirm that the email is working without any problems, and I can send receive within Gmail. I'll just reply back. Thanks so much for this. Look forward to speaking with you soon. Okay, great. All right, fantastic. Let's go now back into Gmail and make sure that that email comes through. Of course, once you've done that, that completes the process. Like I said, this can be a little bit fiddly at times, but it's definitely worth doing because it centralizes everything. It makes it far more efficient for communication, your outreach and everything within your team. Okay, great. That email has now come through. I'm not sure why, but it's actually marked the email from me as spam, which is a bit unusual. Gmail can be a bit finicky at times. You might have to white label or look at filters. It can be a bit temperamental, so you might have to work with it. But always make sure, guys, that you go through the steps, or perform these steps rather, to ensure that you can both send and receive. I like to sometimes send and receive a few times just to make sure that there are no problems. But as we can see here, the email has come through. No problems there, aside from it being flagged as spam. But that essentially wraps up the process of setting up an alias within Gmail. Like I said, this allows you to work independently of the client, so that you can do what you need to do, so they're not getting bombarded with confirmation links and verification emails and all of that sort of thing. It allows you to centralize your efforts, plus it gives you ownership and control of the assets, so you can use them interchangeably between different campaigns.